A big thank you to MPB for sponsoring today's video. Can a cheap lens be a good lens? I'd say maybe a few years ago I would have said no. I would have thought like a good lens has to be like an expensive Leica lens or a Sigma lens. Although recently I've more and more been using older, more reasonably priced camera gear. I've been really impressed by the results I've been getting from it. I made a video a few months ago about the Lumix GX80. Over the years, Shane has always been saying to me, you've got to try this Canon 40mm lens. It's so good, it's so cheap, it's so sharp, you'll love it. And I've always kind of thought like 40mm, that's a kind of strange focal length. I always think about like 28, 35 and 50. And 40mm always seemed like a bit of an anomaly to me. So a couple of months ago I thought, why not give it a go? I picked up a Canon 6D and this pancake 40mm 2.8 lens. This lens you can pick up used for £125, so it's an absolute bargain for a fast prime lens. It's so tiny, it weighs nothing, and I've been so impressed by it. Like optically, I'd say it's on par with some very expensive Leica lenses. It's incredibly sharp, and as a focal length, I've ended up liking 40mm a lot more than I thought I would. I've always thought I've been this kind of like 28mm wide-angle street photography guy, and for some reason 40mm doesn't seem that close to 50mm. It feels much closer to a wide-angle lens to me. I think in that sense it's an incredibly versatile focal length, and I've really been loving using it for street photography. So how does it feel to use this lens for shooting street photographs? I think my problem with 50mm in the past is that it's always kind of felt like a portrait lens. I've naturally found myself wanting to take portrait photographs. I think my instinct on the street is to mostly shoot landscape to try and get as many elements in the frame as I can, and shooting landscape really comes naturally with the 40mm lens. It definitely doesn't feel anywhere near as tight as a 50. It feels much closer to a 35 or 28mm, and for reasons that I can't explain why, sometimes it actually feels wider than a 28mm or a 35mm lens. I know that makes absolutely no sense, but for the way it kind of renders scenes, the way it looks through the viewfinder, it feels there's some sort of magic going on. It feels like it's almost the right focal length for exactly where you are in the scene. It feels like the closest to my field of view that I've been able to get when actually out on the street taking photographs. And for that reason, it's just a very instinctive focal length to use. So for those reasons, just having this mounted on this Canon 6D, I found it being like an absolute fantastic daily carry lens. I don't even there's no whenever I pick up the camera to go out and take photos, there's no oh, should I try a 50? Should I use 28 today? It's like, the 40mm on the Canon, grab it and let's go. And you know you'll be able to use this in absolutely any situation. Whether you're on when you're in a confined space, like on the London Underground, you need something a bit wider, or you want to take a portrait of somebody, this lens I think has you covered for every situation. The thing that initially blew me away with this lens was just how sharp it is. For the price, it just has no right being that sharp. It's on par with some much more expensive lenses I've used in the past. I think it holds its own against lenses that cost £2,000, £3,000. It's absolutely bonkers how sharp it is. It renders scenes really nicely. Because it's f2.8 and it's verging towards 50mm, you do also get quite a nice depth of field as well. It really does give you the best of both worlds, I think. And for a lens that costs £125 used, to get something this sharp is just it's just a no-brainer. I've been considering buying a couple of others just to have as backups in case I break this one, because I really like this lens so much. Talked a lot about DSLRs on the channel before. I found myself back using a DSLR again for commissions and more professional work. For the last couple of years I've been using a Sony setup, either a Sony a7R4 or an a7 IV, and I actually ended up selling all of that just because I found it so joyless to use, and I've moved back to a DSLR setup. I love having an optical viewfinder, and I just love how fast a DSLR is. I don't think people ever talk about this all that much, but DSLRs are just so instant and so responsive, and I always find myself getting photos with a DSLR that I would just never be able to get with a mirrorless camera because they go into a sleep mode. Sometimes it takes them a little while to wake up. DSLR, it's like a light switch. It's bang, it's on. It finds focus really quickly. The focus on this 6D, which is nearly 10 years old, still holds its own today. I think camera tech has just stagnated in a way over the last 10 years, and there's all these very incremental updates, but DSLRs are still such a fantastic option, and you get such a huge range of cheap, amazing, fast lenses. So of course it does have a few weaknesses, I guess. It doesn't have an aperturing, which I think is always a nice thing to have. It makes street photography a more tactile, engaging experience. The focus is a little slow compared to other Canon lenses that I've picked up. I've also been using the 85mm Canon lens, which is much faster to focus, and some of the Canon 50mm are mind-blowingly fast compared to this. However, I've never missed focus or had any like hunting issues. It's just a little bit slower compared to other lenses. Again, for the price, I don't think that's a huge deal. I think we're sort of a bit of a meme now, the amount of camera kit we've tried over the years. I think I've actually now tried every single camera system, and like I said, I'm really enjoying trying these more cheaper setups and being incredibly surprised by just how capable and competent they are. And that means I can save money on the money I'm saving on camera kit can be spent on traveling around the country, maybe doing some road trips, working on some bigger projects, I guess, and still getting fantastic results from the kit I'm using. I just really think we want to lean into this on the channel and talk more about these like sleeper cameras, these really cheap alternatives, how you can get into photography and be a bit more sustainable, I guess, by buying used gear. That leads me on to our sponsor for today's video, MPB. Shay and I have both been using MPB for years. They're a fantastic, sustainable way to get into photography or to upgrade the kit you already have. Buying used just makes sense. Camera technology hasn't really changed over the years, so picking up a fantastic piece of used kit is 100% the way to go. I picked up the Canon 60 and the 40mm lens for just under £500, which for what you're getting is just an incredible bargain. Full frame camera and an incredibly sharp prime lens. You absolutely can't go wrong. If you want to trade in some kit you already have or pick up a whole new system, visit mpb.com. I love the ergonomics of the 40mm on a Canon DSLR like this as well. You think about DSLRs being big and bulky, but this setup is so light, it's so compact, it's a fantastic option for street photography. It's absolutely unobtrusive. You can shoot it on the London Underground, you can take it to events, protests, you can quietly snap away and not disturb people. I think it's a really fantastic option for street photography. If you just want to start taking street photos, or you're a beginner and want to get into street photography, this setup with the 60 and the 40mm you can pick up for less than £500, and for what you're getting, a full frame DSLR and this fantastic sharp, compact, great street lens, it's a no-brainer. So I really want to know what you guys think about the 40mm focal length. I know the Ricoh GR3X has become quite popular recently. Are people using 40mm for street photography? It's pretty new to me, but I'm curious if people like using it more than 35 or 28. Thank you very much for watching along if you made it to this point. If you want to support the channel, please do check out Framelines Magazine. Also, wishing everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.